the true story of the flood like you have never seen. You probably already know the story of the flood and how Noah built an ark. Who doesn't? After all, it is one of the most popular stories in the Bible. However, in this video, we are going to tell you this story all over in a way you've never seen before. The complete story of the flood is in the book of Genesis from chapter 6 to chapter 8. Without further ado, let us delve into the full details of the story and expose the hidden truths they contain. Genesis chapter 6 from verses 1 to 4. Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. To wholly understand the story of the flood, it is crucial to know what the world was like during that time. Chapter 5 of the book of Genesis provided the ages of the men in Noah's genealogy from Adam to Noah, 10 generations. If you calculate the ages of the men starting from Adam to Noah, you'd realize that the world was barely 1,600 years old at that point. The earth was still quite young, but the people were multiplying rapidly. The population of the earth would be a few thousand people at the time. The sons of God mentioned in verse 2 of the passage refer to the angels. These angels were fascinated by the beauty of the women so much that they left heaven just to engage in sexual intercourse with them. What the Bible described as took wives for themselves was actually the angels engaging in intercourse with the women they chose. At that time, there were no rules, no laws, and no leaders. The people did whatever they wanted, and marriage was simply engaging in sexual activity. There was no culture or ceremony like it is now. This is evident in how Cain got married in the first part of Genesis chapter 4, verse 17, which reads, And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. The New Living Translation Bible explains it thus: Cain had sexual relations with his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. So, when the angels came to earth and married whoever they wanted, it meant that they just went around having sexual relations with any woman they wanted. The NLT version for Genesis chapter 6 verse 2 reads, The sons of God saw the beautiful women and took any they wanted as their wives. This shows that during the days of Noah, not only were humans multiplying, but the angels were also reproducing with humans and creating a new hybrid race. Genesis chapter 6 from verses 5 to 7. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. As we have established earlier, this was an era where there were no nations or kingdoms, no kings or rulers, and no rules or laws. The people did whatever they wanted. The will of God was for the people of the earth to serve him directly as their God. However, despite that humans already had knowledge of good and evil, they chose to do evil every time. Only a handful of people, according to the names provided in the Bible, dedicated their lives to God and worshipped him. The others didn't care. Not only were they committing sexual sins, but they were also violent. They were not accountable to anyone, so murder was easy for them to get away with. Do you remember the first man ever to commit murder? Do you remember how Cain killed Abel without a care in the world? Well, this is what Cain said to God after he was cursed in Genesis chapter 4, verse 14. You have banished me from the land and from your presence. You have made me a homeless wanderer. Anyone who finds me will kill me." When Cain expressed his fear that anyone would kill him, God placed a mark on him to warn anyone who might try to kill him. This proves that even though the people alive were not so many at the time, human life held no value to them. They could kill a person for a minor reason or no reason at all. Over their long lifespan, these people didn't see a reason to repent. Rather, they only grew worse. When God saw their hearts, he saw that their thoughts were only evil. They were irredeemable. Verses 11 and 12 of Genesis chapter 6 reads, "The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth." Thousands of people were on the earth at the time, and every one of them was corrupt. They all engaged in their sins and developed new ways to continue sinning. When God saw how corrupt the people were and that they were not living according to his will, he decided to destroy everyone and everything. However, Genesis chapter 6 verse 8 reads, "But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord." The Bible explains that Noah was a righteous man and he served God just like his great-grandfather Enoch and his grandfather Methuselah. So, God decided to give humans a second chance at revival through Noah's descendants. However, he wouldn't forgive the other thousands of people who had become irredeemable. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 13, "And God said to Noah, 'The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth.'" Here God spoke to Noah because he had chosen him to be the pioneer for the next era of humans. He told Noah his plans, explaining how he would destroy the earth with a flood. However, he also told Noah the only way to survive the inevitable disaster. Verses 14 to 16. "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark. Cover it inside and outside with pitch. And this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. You shall make a window for the ark. You shall make it with lower, second, and third decks." While some drawings depict Noah's ark as a long, shabby rectangular box, this description proves that the ark was actually a complex structure. When converted from cubits to feet, the measurements are as follows. The length of the ark is 450 feet, which is equivalent to a standard football field. And the height of the ark was 45 feet, which is the equivalent of a 3-story building. Noah's ark was not only complex in its size, but it was also made to be complex in its interior. God commanded Noah to divide the ark into 3 stories: the lower deck, second deck, and third deck. The construction implies that there must be a staircase at least to navigate the decks. Each deck must also have different compartments, because they would have to fit the different animals that would be accommodated on board. Each compartment also cannot be the same size. They must be built with consideration of each animal in regard to size, among other qualities. An animal as tall as a giraffe would require a different compartment from a rabbit, likewise an elephant and an ant. God also commanded that Noah take 7 pairs of some animals and 2 pairs of others. This differing number would also be taken into consideration in the construction. So, if you think that Noah's Ark is just a giant rectangular box, like it is depicted in some drawings and cartoons, you've got another think coming. In Genesis chapter 7, verses 2 and 3 read, "You shall take with you 7 each of every clean animal, a male and his female, 2 each of animals that are unclean, a male and his female, also 7 each of birds of the air, male and female, to keep the species alive on the face of the earth." Clarity on the clean and unclean animals is provided in the book of Leviticus chapter 11, when God commanded the Israelites on what animals can be eaten and sacrificed. The unclean animals refer to reptiles, insects, animals with paws, and those with divided feet, but are not cloven-hoofed or chew the cud. This selection of animals to preserve reveals God's strategic intention for humans to survive and thrive. All the land animals in the world, including every type of bird, journeyed from all corners of the earth and arrived at Noah's Ark 7 days before the rain started falling. Genesis chapter 7 verses 4 and 5. For after 7 more days I will cause it to rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will destroy from the face of the earth all living things that I have made. And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. Over the years, some have argued that the only reason Noah was chosen by God is that he knew how to make boats. They believed he was the only one who could build the ark that would save humanity from complete extinction. This is nothing but mere speculation. The truth itself is clearly written in the Bible and is evident in the verses we have read so far. While Noah might not have had any knowledge of how to build boats or whether boats existed at the time, we know for a fact that God provided clear instructions on how the ark must be built. How would such a massive structure made solely out of wood float on water? God also provided the answer to that in verse 14 of chapter 6. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark. Cover it inside and outside with pitch. Pitch is a sticky, tar-like substance derived from natural sources such as tree resin or bitumen. It is very effective for waterproofing. Covering the ark with pitch inside and out would ensure that the ark was watertight, preventing water from seeping through the wooden structure. Another function of the pitch was to increase the durability of the wood, preventing it from rot and decay used by prolonged exposure to water. When you consider how advanced this knowledge and science was for a world that was less than 2,000 years old, perhaps the archaeologists are right that ancient civilizations were more advanced than what we have now. It took Noah about 100 years to build the ark. 3-story building with the length of a standard football field. Noah was about 500 years old when God called him and gave him instructions to build the ark. Verse 6 of Genesis chapter 7 reveals that Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters were on the earth. Noah spent over 100 years building the ark according to God's instruction, and to the sinful people of his generation he must have made a good laughingstock. Even more so when he and his family entered the ark 7 days before the rain started. During that week, which would be their last on earth, the people must have thought Noah was crazy. However, they could not comprehend the things of God because they lacked faith. When God commanded Noah to build an ark, he obeyed the commandment immediately because he had faith. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 7 reads, By faith Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. This debunked the belief that Noah was only chosen because he had knowledge of boat building. We also get an insight into Noah's character in Genesis chapter 6 verse 9. This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generation. Noah walked with God. Just like his fathers before him, Noah lived a righteous life that pleased the Lord, and so he was chosen by God to be the pioneer of humanity's second chance on earth. Genesis chapter 7 verse 6 reads, Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters were on the earth. There is an interesting detail many people do not realize about the story of the flood. To reveal this, let's consider the book of Genesis chapter 5, from verses 25 to 29. Methuselah lived 187 years, and begot Lamech. After he begot Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years, and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. Lamech lived 182 years and had a son, and he called his name Noah, saying, "This one will comfort us concerning our work and the toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord has cursed." Do you remember Methuselah? He's the oldest man who ever lived according to the scriptures. He died at the age of 969. The interesting fact is that according to these passages, Methuselah was 187 years old when he had his son, Lamech. And since Lamech had Noah when he was 182 years old, Methuselah was 369 years old at the time of Noah's birth. The flood happened 600 years later, which puts Methuselah at 969 years old at the time of the flood. This means that the oldest man who ever lived on earth, according to the scriptures, died in the same year God destroyed the earth with a flood. Through these verses, we realize God's divine strategy for preservation. This is evident in how he kept Methuselah until the last minute. Noah's father, Lamech, also died 5 years before the flood happened, ensuring that none of these righteous men would perish with the sinners in the world. And so it came to pass that when Noah had completed the ark, at the age of 600, the prophecy of the flood was fulfilled. Verses 11 and 12 of Genesis chapter 7 read, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Verse 12 reveals that the rain did not cease, but rather continued non-stop for 40 days and 40 nights. Verses 17 to 21 of the same chapter read, "Now the flood was on the earth 40 days. The waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. The waters prevailed and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth, and all the high hills under the whole heaven were covered. The waters prevailed 15 cubits upward, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved on the earth, birds and cattle and beasts and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, and every man. The water from the flood was over 20 feet high. This was enough to drown everyone and everything, including the giants, who were the hybrid children of fallen angels and humans. The floodwaters remained on earth for about 150 days before reducing. Although the rain lasted 40 days and nights, it was almost a year before Noah and his family stepped on dry land. Noah then took one each of every clean animal and clean bird and offered burnt offerings to God on an altar. Verse 21 of Genesis chapter 8 reads, "And the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. Then the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake, although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done." God then gave Noah and his sons some commandments to live by, which the perished generation did not have. He also made a covenant with Noah and gave the rainbow as a sign of his covenant, which we can see whenever it rains even today. While God loved us so much that he created us in his own image, it was heartbreaking for him to see humans choose to live in perversion instead of serving their Creator. When the sin of man had become intolerable, and the fallen angels worsened the matters by copulating with the humans, God decided to wipe the slate clean by destroying everyone and everything on earth. Noah, his family, and the few animals selected from every species were the only survivors of the flood. Here's an interesting question for you. Do you think the Great Flood is the reason the earth contains more water than land? Genesis chapter 1 verses 9 and 10 reveal how God divided the earth and the seas, giving the impression that it was a 50-50 ratio. However, it has been proven now that the oceans cover about 71% of the Earth's surface, while dry land is only 29%. So, do you think this is because of the Great Flood? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section and share this video with someone to enlighten them about the true story of the flood. If you haven't already, like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing Bible contents like this. God bless you.